And welcome everybody to yet another Bangers and Classics podcast. That's with me, James Rupper, and him, David Malloy. Hello, David. What are you up to?
Hello, James. Well, I'm sitting looking out the window at the rain whilst enjoying a beer.
Oh, right, that's nice.
Yes, I'm completely unrepentant about that. So there we go. Just so the listeners know, I'm not going to apologise for having a beer while doing the podcast because I've had a busy day.
Right, that's fair enough.
But apart from that, I've been doing lots of things recently. The EV, as we all know now, if you look at the Bangers and Classic Twitter feed, is not actually a car. It never was a car.
Oh, right.
It is, in fact, you well know this, James, let's be honest.
Oh.
Yeah, of course you do. Let's let the cat out of the bag completely, which should give a clue to what it really is, because it's a naval term. The EV is, in fact, a boat. And EV stands for Expedition Vessel.
Yeah.
And there will be certain adventures to be had on it. And she finally hit the water yesterday, and anyone at the marina had great fun watching me learn to drive it, because I've never driven this boat before. And there was quite a current and quite a bit of wind. Yeah. So getting her into her berth was it was challenging. When I eventually finally did it, I really did it well, but it took a lot of time to get there. It's just remembering what to do, James, and getting used to the movement of an unfamiliar craft.
No, that's right. Well, I'm looking forward to doing some crewing for you, David. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, of course. We're looking forward to that. It's going to look for a potential submarine that's not on the charts and not logged anywhere, which there may be more about on video someday. Yeah. But that's one of the things we're going to be doing with her, and apparently we're just enjoying life. Or maybe do a podcast from her one day.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. She's not a big boat. I don't want listeners thinking that we've gone all flashy and fancy and Bangers and Classics, because she isn't. She's 19 feet long. She has got a little cabin. You can sleep in her. Don't expect any creature comforts at all on her, but she's a nice little boat, and apparently she can fly if the mood takes her. But I won't be doing that because it can be quite choppy out where I live. Anyway, this podcast is about cars, I think, isn't it?
Oh, right.
Well, yeah, it's sort of, isn't it? It's whatever we think of. So, but in that vein, any car spots recently?
A fair few, really, and I might have to save some up, I think, for future, the next one. But for me, I saw a marvelous sight quite late on Friday night. It was quite dusk. It was about 10 o'clock, so warm evening, going home, and it was a Fiat 500 with a wicker basket on the boot. So I would assume they've eaten what was in the wicker basket, because it's going to get rather warm, isn't it, when it's attached to the rear of a Fiat 500. But yeah, it was a little cream one. It looked fantastic, and it sort of raised your spirits.
As it would, also,
yeah, it certainly did. And otherwise than that, there was actually a couple of Land Rovers. A chap who cleans my chimney, he's called Jim the Sweep, and he's got a 110 Land Rover, and he virtually leaned out of it to wave at me yesterday. So that was quite nice to see him in his old white thing. And also a Spanish Santana owner. Again, was very, very enthusiastic. Obviously, I was in a Land Rover at the time. Was waving at me, and you don't see many of those to the pound. So
a Volkswagen Santana.
No, it was the Spanish-built Santana Land Rover.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and it looked in really good condition. I presume he'd restored it, but it looks like a Series 3, but the front end is a bit different, the lights are a bit different, and stuff like that. So that was a really unusual thing to see. So good for him.
Well, I saw a couple of classics.
Did you? Good.
Yeah, within probably about 100 yards of each other, both on driveways.
Right.
One was a white Porsche 944.
Yeah.
Which looked very good. And there was a very early, probably about mid-70s, but well restored by the look of it, or certainly well kept, Range Rover.
Oh, right.
And I liked both of them. They're very nice to see. I'd probably rather have the 944 being me, but the Range Rover looked great. And of course, it was true to the original ethos of the Range Rover, the original purpose. Yeah. Which was to go off-road and plug some mud.
Yeah.
But nowadays, they're sort of gin palaces and wheels, really, aren't they?
They are. They're not really. I don't really understand the Land Rover range at all. And strangely enough, I was a few weeks back when I was at a do. I was with somebody who used to work at Land Rover, and they didn't understand the Land Rover range either. So that was two of us. Yeah, it really. I mean, I don't know what a Velar is really. They seem to have doubled up when it comes to the Discovery and the Defender. But I don't run a car company, so there you go. I don't know anything.
Perhaps we should start one, Bangers and Classic Car Company.
Well, I would hope we would do, David. I mean,
Yeah.
now we're into boats. We've got the Bangers and Classics, boat yard, and it'd be great to do cars as well. I think we'd be fantastic at it. But there you go.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's on the to-do list.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we plough on into this week's Banger or Classic? This is going to be a somewhat turgid affair, perhaps.
Is it?
But nonetheless, well, it might well be, but it has to be done. And it's the Mark 1 and Mark 2 Nissan Micra. And you can guess my thoughts, so let's perhaps have yours first.
Yeah, I think you've got a terrifying journey to relate, I think, from your past, David. But strangely enough, my local garage, which I've had to spend some time at recently, because I'm down 2 vehicles at the moment, a very long story. But one of the mechanics there actually has a very nice Micra, and he's put Minolite wheels on it. And I'll tell you what, it looks fantastic.
Is that Mark 1? Well, hang on.
Yeah.
A Micra, which one? Which generation, James?
I would say that's the. It would count as the. I think it counts as the Mark II, but it's actually the Mark 1 for our purposes, I think. It does have an N number, doesn't it? So
don't know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so this is from 1992. It's the driving school legend one, but there was a Micra before that. There was an 80s Micra that made it into the 90s. But I think the one that you think it looks like a Noddy car.
That's the one.
Yeah, technically that's a Mark II, and then there's a Mark III. But I think they're fantastic, and the engines are great. I mentioned this before. A friend of mine used to take the engines out of them, put them into minis, and go grass track racing. And they are very, very tough. They do rust, but they are the sort of. It's one of those cars that you can leave for ages, and it will just start. And there's not a lot to go wrong with it apart from rust. I think mass airflow sensors, and sometimes there's starting issues and stuff. But on the whole, you can abuse them and so forth, and they're a fantastic looking car. So, yeah, and if you put Minolite wheels on it as well, it just looks fantastic, especially on a 3-door. It sort of looks a bit like a sort of a 80s Mini. So yeah, it's a classic, David. So I think we can leave that there.
No, I don't think we can.
No? Oh.
No. In fact, if you think it looks fantastic, I'm going to have to get you a Labrador, James, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Possibly a DVLA as well.
Yeah.
Micra, just let's go into it in a little bit of detail. Launched in 82, front wheel drive, small hatch, 3 and 5 door, original version, dull as dishwater. Not very attractive, but you will say, James, and I have to agree, it is reliable. In Europe, you get 1 litre or 1.2 litre versions. There was a 930cc turbo in Japan, and late in the day, there was in 1988, there was a super turbo version in Japan, which was turbocharged and supercharged, did 0 to 60 in 7.7 seconds, but it still was dull as dishwater. And my main memory of that Micra was a young lady I worked with when I was doing my training, had one, and she was a very nice young lady, but how to put it kindly, you wouldn't buy her by the pound. And she was a bit self-conscious about her weight, and unnecessarily so, but she was. And she started to go to water aerobics. And after a few weeks, I met her in the hall one day at work. And I said, "You still doing the water aerobics?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, it made a great difference to you." She beamed. She said, "Do you think so?" "Yeah." I said, "You look a lot cleaner." It probably explains my lack of success with women over the years. Also, the Mark 1 gave rise to Nissan Figaro. Not my favourite car, but a lot of people love them. Whatever. If it floats your boat, hey, well, there's obviously, go for it. Generation 2 came in 1992. Utter and total Noddy car. I hired one once when I was working down in Birmingham. Drove it for a few hundred miles, mostly on the motorway. It was horrible. It was a dreadful thing. It was just unbelievably susceptible to side winds. It felt tinny. It felt small. It just didn't feel good. I also, around about the same time, drove contemporary versions of some rivals, the Fiesta, the Polo, and the Punto. And I have to say, the Micra compared badly to them. Certainly to drive, maybe to own. Again, it would be reliable, James, and maybe it would score in that way. But in terms of a driving car, it was fourth best out of that bunch. However, it did give rise to Mr. Corrugated's favourite TV ad, I believe.
All right.
She mentioned it before on our Twitter page, and needless to say, it involves a young lady.
All right.
Which is fair enough, I suppose. But what I'm going to say is, if you're an MX-5 owner looking for a small family car, trust me, you're going to love the Micra. And yeah, my verdict is banger, complete and total. But if you love it, don't you just ignore me because everybody else does.
Yeah. Have you finished, David?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Probably for good.
Yeah. Right. Where are we going next?
Well, we're going to take a break now, James.
Are we? Oh, right.
I was expecting a sort of pithy retort from you there.
No, I don't do pithy retorts. They're too expensive.
Since when? This is a new phenomenon, this is.
Yeah.
Right, we'll take a break and we shall return with more nonsense. You're listening to Bangers and Classics, the most petty and ill-informed motoring podcast in the multiverse. And we are back after the break. James has valiantly tried to persuade me that the Nissan Micra is a wonderful car, but it's not working. Sorry, James.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we've got some news, and sadly, it's not good news, I have to say. No. Well, I've heard something in the grapevine, and this apparently comes from a very high source.
Yeah.
That the government is believed to be working on plans to require all internal combustion engine cars to be converted to at least hybrid power over the next 10 years.
All right.
And the conversion work will not be paid for by the government unless you own a more expensive car. So it doesn't apply to the poor. Everybody else might get a system of lower interest loans, which is probably about 20%, judging by the rate of inflation these days. I am told that the hybrid motor will be a small one. And get this, James, this is a bit that really cracks me up.
Right.
It's going to be rechargeable during journeys if you have a front seat passenger because they're going to mount pedals in the footwell.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a proposal that comes from the Department of Health because they think it's a positive way of tackling the obesity crisis. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's going down a very dangerous alley. But what can I say?
Well, exactly.
So yeah, that's my news for this week. You get any?
Well, I had noticed that actually an ex or ex rather Olympic cyclists will be hiding behind most people's bins, and when we go out to use our cars, they're actually going to go and stab the tyres. And this is all to encourage us to not use our cars, but walk or cycle or do something else. So that's what will be happening apparently. Yeah, there'll be never mind the cat that fights behind the bins. There'll be ex-Olympic cyclists behind the bins with knives. So,
well, good luck to him behind my bins because he's got three dogs and a cat to deal with, and then there's some bigger animals that might be called upon to sort the beggar out.
Oh, that's
Mind you, if the government want to do that, James, why bother? Because they've already done a lot of damage by allowing the price of fuel to be what it is. I was looking at certain things, and fuel in this country is apparently rather more expensive now than it is in the continent.
Yeah, it is. It's been that way for a long time.
Yeah, but I'm talking about some up to 50p a litre in some places.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous and has to be dealt with. So people, don't accept it. Just don't.
Well, there's fantastic examples, people, of the Dutch farmers are an example to us all. Do become ungovernable. It's a very good way to proceed with your life.
Yes,
that's right. Also proving that it does pay to own your own vehicles, because if you didn't own your own vehicles, you couldn't do some protests. So all those people who think, yeah, let's not own anything, let's hire everything, let's have a zip car. It's not going to work. You need your own stuff, and ideally your own heavy duty earth moving type stuff, because you will be heard.
Absolutely. Anyway, shall we move on now to a challenge?
Oh, what's the challenge? Oh, okay.
Well, there might be more than one, depending how much time we've got.
Oh.
Well, this one, James.
Yeah.
Is we have been challenged by a listener.
Have we?
Yep. His name is Finbar Saunders, but he wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
to go onto Gumtree with a budget of £500 and buy either a classic car or a banger or a classic car accessory of any type.
Yeah.
So you went first the last time. I'll go first this time.
Yeah, well, it's a good job you're going first because I didn't see this on the email. There you go.
It wasn't in the main email. It was the one before that, James.
Oh, well, there you go. Changing the rules as you go along.
Absolutely. Well, the government does. Everybody else.
Well, there you go.
Governments and politicians across the world do. So why can't I? Anyway, I went to Gumtree.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm not buying a car. That's a bit boring. We do a lot of that.
Mm.
So I thought, what can I buy that's classic related? And I thought of row style wheels because we like row style wheels here in Bangor and Classics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do. But I thought, well, they're too car specific. Let's find something that suits every car. And it hit me. 8 tracks. 8-track stereos. So I looked around.
Yeah.
I thought, well, my £500 budget, it gives me a lot of leeway to buy things. So the first ad I saw, and of course we're going to buy these, is for a car cassette player plus numerous 8-track cartridges.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's an 8-track player. I presume it is, but as we'll find out later on, I'm not taking that chance. But some of the cassettes were ideal, I thought, for you, James.
Oh, really?
I mean, yeah. Things like Glenn Miller, Jim Reeves. This is sort of your era.
Is it really?
Yeah, Mantovani.
Yeah.
And there's the stereo brass, and there's even some shortbread music, and I know how much you love a bit of Jimmy Shand. So, yeah, there's quite a few cassettes or cartridges. So I thought, 25 quid, we'll have that lot. But then I thought, well, maybe the player is genuinely an early cassette player, not an 8-track. So let's get another one. And I found one that's new and unused. It's a completely new, old stock that is, of course.
Yeah.
8-track for £35. It's a Japanese unit. It's still in its plastic wrapping. I've even got the fixing brackets with it. I thought, whoa, we're going to have that. So that's in the list. So we've spent 60 quid so far.
Yeah.
I have the £500 budget, and we're quite well covered. Then I thought, well, there could be some B&C Bangers and Classics road trips coming up. And I ain't sitting listening to Jim Reeves and Mantovani all blooming day, I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let's have a look. And, well, I found some more tapes, or some more cartridges. For £10, I could have 3. That was Bowie, ELO, and Hawkwind. Not a bad selection, but not enough. So we've now spent £70.
Right.
And then I thought, well, we could do with more. So I didn't stop there. I found an Akai Home 8-track cartridge unit. Comes with speakers, headphones, earphones, the lot. But here's the thing. It comes with 34 8-track cartridges, including Roxy Music, Brian Ferry, the two being distinct, Rory Gallagher, T-Rex, Bowie, Joe Cocker, and sadly, I mean, we can throw this one out, is Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
£150. But even so, James, we've spent, what, 220 quid?
Yeah.
And that's great. So we're covered. That's my selection.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I could have bought you a Micra, David. Actually, there's a man selling his wife's Micra. I don't know if she knows that he's selling her Micra, but he was. But I thought, well, I won't burden you with that. Below £500, actually, there is obviously a lot of rubbish, and there's a lot of things that aren't, as you pointed out, complete cars. Really, there's bits and pieces and all sorts of things. But actually, I was quite taken by a Vauxhall Zafira, a 54 plate, at a dealer. Strangely enough, so it has to be. It has to be roadworthy in order to be sold. So yeah, £500. The MOT is December. The paintwork is appalling, but it will seat 7, so you get a lot of people on board. And as you say, when we do our road trips, it could be the perfect vehicle. So I'm quite tempted by that.
Right. Well, let's put it this way, James.
Yeah.
We don't require a heater and a Zafira to be working, do we?
No, we don't. No, absolutely not.
No, we don't. I mean, let's face it, we'd better bring some marshmallows and some spuds, etc., just in case.
Well, that could happen, but I don't think it will. It's in Liverpool, so we could go and pick it up.
Yeah, Vauxhall Zafira for 500 quid. We'd probably beat them down a bit. I mean, we could resort the paint out. I mean, I've got to the Dulux kicking about somewhere.
Oh, well, that's okay then.
Other brands are available.
Yeah.
And if you want your brand to be featured in the podcast, just let us know and send us some money, and
Yes,
we'll be
please.
happy to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we shall move on, and I think we shall take another break here. Or will we? Nah, yeah, we will. We'll take another break. This is Bangers and Classics, presented by a bodger and a dodger. Right, we're back after the break, and somewhat disgracefully, according to everybody, I'm having another beer.
Oh,
Yes, indeed. This could get out of hand, which is, of course, the whole point of Bangers and Classics is to be irreverent. And we're going to go into this week's Danger Zone. And, of course, you've seen the Top Gun Maverick movie recently, haven't you, James?
I have, David. Yes, I've been to the cinema for the first time for a long time.
Did they actually play the Kenny Loggins track Danger Zone in it?
I think it may have been in it. Strangely enough, yes.
Yeah. Highway to the Danger Zone. Well, we're going down the highway to the Danger Zone. And this week's Danger Mobile is a Simca 1100.
Mm.
We have talked about it in the pod before.
We have.
But I think it's worth talking about again, because there's only 21 left on UK roads. Plus a quantity in Soren, obviously, but 21 registered for use in the UK. Mm. That's quite sad, James.
It is terribly sad, because, again, it was a familiar sight on the roads. And, when was the last time I saw one? I don't know. It would have been 1980 something, probably.
Well, you probably saw one more recently, but you wouldn't recognise it as a Simca 1100. Rancho.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
it was derived from a Simca 1100 van. Mm. I mean, a lot of material work went into it, of course, but nonetheless, the underpinnings were a Simca. Mm. Obviously, came out in 1967. Front-wheel drive, very early hatchback, one of the first, and for its day, a fairly advanced specification, including obviously all independent suspension, rack and pinion steering, folding seats, and of course, front-wheel drive. Mm. Very practical it was too. It also gave rise to some interesting models, James. The 1100 Ti, which was possibly the world's first hot hatch.
Right.
It was warm rather than hot for the day, but nonetheless, all the hallmarks of the hot hatchback are there. There was also the 1100 fan and the aforesaid Rancho. And there was also an interesting Spanish vehicle called the Campero. Somewhat strange looking, but it possibly inspired the Rancho. Didn't sell many of them, but it was an interesting effort and certainly a worthwhile effort. And the other thing about the 1100, of course, if you live in Spain, it was a Simca 1200. Let's not forget that. It wasn't called 1100 there. The engine that used was the Poissy engine, and that was designed by, and I've said this before, was Georges Martin. It was the bloke who designed the Micra V12 racing engine, which is, of course, the greatest racing engine ever. Certainly sonically it is. If you've ever heard one at full chat, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't heard one at full chat, then seek one out and listen to it. It will make your day, possibly a week. So lots of reasons to like it. It was advanced. It was an interesting little car. Its successor, the Horizon, was essentially an 1100 in the party fork. Mm. Basically, so it lasted a long time. Really went from the 60s, certainly well into the 80s, James. If you accept the fact that the Rancho and the Horizon essentially versions of the 1100. Mm. So long life, interesting specification. Sold certainly in the early days like hotcakes. Of course, Simca long ceased to exist, sadly.
That's true.
Yeah, but there you have it. I think you should buy one if you can find one. And obviously, if you do, for goodness sake, look after it. Anyway, your thoughts, Mr. R?
Yeah, no, I think they're great cars. They look really good in 3 or 5 door spec, really. I think there was a few sort of specials over the years with extra kit on them. And there was a tiny engine, wasn't there, in which you could get abroad, which I don't think came here, 944cc apparently.
Yeah.
No, they were great cars. They were very practical cars, and for a family, they were really in all the car you ever needed. And when people come to talk about hatchbacks and stuff, they completely forget that this was out there, and it was one of the best.
Mm. Well, you think about the Renault 16 as well, the Simca 1100, and they're very, very early hatchbacks. Yeah. You could say, I suppose, the Renault 4. But I don't think it was a hatchback. I think it was more of a shooting breaker in the States.
Yeah.
But all of these cars, were all French cars, which is interesting. French design perhaps really led the way at the time.
Yeah.
During the 60s. And of course, you had all of Citroen's great efforts. And wonder what's happened to that, James. It's rather sad that it's gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have one more thing in this week's podcast. Another
no.
challenge, yeah.
Oh no.
Yes, this is it. Well, we have to keep the running time up to please Mr. Corrigan.
All right.
Yeah, he's already complained about us this week too. I can't remember who it was, but he's complained about us anyway for being a day late with the podcast due to me being unavailable for various reasons. I was too well to come to work.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, this challenge number 2 is to find and, in inverted commas, it says here, buy a classic, any classic that you can get for under £10,000 and has, and you're going to love this, James, the worst possible fuel consumption. The rationale is to find and preserve one before it becomes extinct. There are bonus points for engine size, the least streamlined bodywork, and pointless but energy-sapping extras, and of course heaviness. So, you want to go first and tell us what you got?
Well, I got very confused, David, as usual, about
No, you don't.
About the terms and conditions of this.
Well, I broke the rules.
Yeah, but also this particular podcast has been put off rather a lot of times, and actually vehicles I've been following have got sold, and one of them actually was really good. It was a tanker lorry, so I thought, I could have 29,000 gallons behind me.
That's about £1 million worth.
Well, it is now, and that was 9,995 plus VAT. Now I can claim VAT back. So I thought, okay, I'll have to get a HGV license, but that seemed quite good, and the fuel consumption would be irrelevant, I suppose, because I could just top myself up. But there you go. And that got sold because it was very depressing, because I refreshed the page and it had gone. And then I just thought, well, what I'll do, I'll just get a green goddess, which would have lots of useless extras on there for me. And I believe the fuel consumption on those wasn't fantastic. I think we're struggling to get anywhere near sort of 8 or 9 mpg with those. And plus it's not at all streamlined, probably quite dangerous to drive. And it's got ladders and pumps and water and all sorts on board. But that seemed quite fun. And that was 9,995. So there you go. And it only done 2,000 miles, like a lot of them have, because they were all mothballed. So I just thought that was a laugh for a ridiculous vehicle. And last time I looked, it was still on sale.
Well, I kind of broke the budget with mine, but I figured I can probably pick it up for in budget.
Yeah,
I couldn't miss this because it references in some way one of my favourite films, and it's one of my favourite directors, and also might have a link in a sort of tangential way to another film that I love. The car in question is a 1969 Cadillac Coupe de Ville V8 convertible. Now, the Coupe de Villes were a band in the film The Fog, the 1980 version, by the wonderful Mr. John Carpenter. If you're going to watch The Fog, watch the original John Carpenter film and not the one they made in the noughties, because it's really not very good at all. But the John Carpenter film is wonderful. In the film, a track is played by the Coupe de Villes, and apparently it was a band that John Carpenter was in. And he doesn't seem to make any films anymore, but he still tours playing live music with his band, which is great. And he's played the UK a few years ago, and unfortunately I couldn't go and see him, which was a bit of a damn shame, because I would love to have gone to see him. Made some brilliant films and indeed some cracking film music. But this car is also the sort of car, being a caddy and a ragtop, that Jack Cates, who is obviously well known to those who love the film 48 Hours, he'd have driven this. Not least because it's painted matte black. It doesn't look as if it's had a great paint job. It could have been sprayed from a rattle can. It could have been hand painted. Maybe it's been to a professional body shop. I don't know. But it actually suits it. It looks mean and moody. And it's about 300 feet long, I think.
Yeah.
It's done 55,000 miles. It lives in a county in which I used to live, and you're going to be shocked at this, James. I used to live in Leicestershire.
Did you?
I did indeed, for a little while with my folks. It's down there. Anyway, it's got a manual hood. It apparently runs well. There's been recent work setting up the engine. It's had a service. The ad says it can be left matte with the big wheels, or you can take it back to original. There are bits needed to be done, electrics, a few bits of trim and the locks, but overall, apparently, it is a solid running motor. As I said, it's 55,000 miles. It hails from 1969. I can't say much more than that. It's an original, obviously. It's a big machine. The engine is a 472 cubic inch V8. So given the size of the car, the weight, and the size of the engine, then you're going to need Mr. Muppet's Green Goddess to follow you with its tanks full of fuel.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to, so you might as well buy both of them.
That's fair enough.
I think so, yeah. It will upset almost everybody it encounters for one reason or another. So if you like doing that, this is definitely the car to buy. And perhaps if John Carpenter comes back to the UK, get him to sign the bonnet for you or something. The only snag is the price is $12,500, but we may get it for a bit less than that. So anyway, there we go. That's my take on it. That's the car I'm going for. And that, I think, is this week's podcast.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, unless you've got something you want to add, James.
No, not really, no.
No. I mean, that's a pity because I could have had another beer, you see.
Really? There's nothing to stop you having another one if you really must.
No. Oh, I think it probably is. It's called a wife. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, as ever. We're back next week with more nonsense. We've no idea as yet what we're going to record. We don't plan these things very much in advance, as you know. But I think I can guarantee you it'll be nonsense. I think we're going to get Mr. Muppet on the beer next time, and I'll be completely... Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
And on that note, I will simply say goodbye.
Yeah, cheerio, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to try and get some cars fixed. That's what I've got to go and do.
I'm going to find out what cars he needs to get fixed. That's my next job. Cheerio.
Cheerio, everybody.